Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to build another watch using the Seiko VH31 quartz movement. Check out my other video where I use the same movement in an SKX build. For this project, I wanted to create a Seamaster inspired watch. I have many mechanical watches, but I do prefer the accuracy and simplicity of a quartz watch where I can just grab it and go. I only have to worry about servicing it maybe every couple of years when the battery dies. So we're going to need a watch case. And for this build, I have the Seamaster styled case. It is stainless steel, but they can be purchased in titanium as well if you want a lightweight case to match the lightweight quartz movement. It has a domed sapphire crystal and blue ceramic bezel insert. For the dial, I have a 31mm no date dial. The VH31 doesn't have a date complication, so a no date dial is ideal. This dial has the dial feet for the 3, 3.8, and 4 o'clock crown positions. So I've already marked off the 3 o'clock dial feet that we're going to keep, and the rest we're just going to trim off. Of course, we'll need a movement, and this is the Seiko VH31 movement. It has a smooth, sweeping second hand compared to a normal quartz watch, which takes every second. You can use a Miyota 2115 instead if you don't mind the ticking. It's the same size and shape, so it'll fit the movement holder. Next, you'll need hands. In terms of hands for the VH31, there are a very limited selection compared to the NH30 mechanical movements. Hands for the NH35 won't fit because the hole is too big. Instead, you need ones for quartz movements like the Miyota 2115, PC32A, or hands specifically for the VH31. So the hole size of the hand should be around 1.20 millimeters for the hour hand, 0.7 for the minute hand, and 0.17 for the second hand. To hold all the parts in place, we'll need a 3D printed movement holder. I'll leave a link to the STL and TinkerCAD model I found online in the description. I printed it with PET filament, and using the holder allows you to use the dial feet that is found on the NH35 dials to keep it in place. It doesn't hurt to use some sort of dial dots or double-sided tape if you want it to hold it better. If you don't have access to a 3D printer, there are Miyota 2115 movement holders that you can buy online, but you'll have to buy several to find the one that fits, and you may need to trim it or sand it to fit. I'll also add a custom logo to the dial before installing it. I designed the logo using Bing Image Creator and had someone print them for me. I basically used AI to generate a unique logo for me since I can't draw. You can also search online for logos or clip art if you want. If you want to know more about creating your own custom logos, check out my other video where I lay out the process. Applying the logo requires steady hands, so take your time with it or risk having a crooked logo. So now it's time to get rid of the dial feet we're not going to use. I've already marked off the ones that are for the 3 o'clock position. So we're just going to use a pair of wire snippers and just cut them off. Now it's time to test fit everything with the movement holder and the dial. Make sure everything lines up and see if you need to do any minor tweaks to the movement holder. You may need to trim it or sand away some of the material for it to fit. After confirming everything fits in the case properly, we can now cut the crown stem to length, attach the crown to the oversized stem, and then insert it into the movement. I use calipers to measure how much to cut. Make sure the stem is in the lowest position, then measure the gap between the base of the crown to the top of the thread. If you don't have spare crown stems, make sure you measure twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then cut once. It's always better to cut it a little too long and then test fit it, then cut it a little too short. The crown should be able to screw into the thread without too much pressure. After measuring the length I needed to trim off, I used a pair of nippers to cut it. To prevent the pieces from flying all over the place, I put it in a Ziploc bag before I cut it. Then file or sand the end of the stem before screwing it into the crown. I had to cut my stem twice before I found the right length. Luckily, it was too long and not too short. Test fit it again in the case with the movement, and if it fits good, we can install the hands. Installing the hands is probably the hardest step in watch building. I'd recommend getting a cheap quartz watch and practice taking the hands on and off to get yourself accustomed to installing them. I'm not the greatest at this, so feel free to check out other YouTube videos dedicated to just installing hands. If you've never installed hands on a watch, then it will be hard, but like everything in life, it just takes practice. Having the right tools also helps a lot. I use manual hand pressing tools and a bit of Rodico putty. Using tweezers are just too hard for me, but the putty is a game changer for holding the hands while I press it down. Installing hands on a no-date watch is easier in that we don't have to account for the 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. since there is no date to roll over. So installing the hour hand is easy. Just set it down wherever and push it down. After installing the hour hand, we move it to the 12 o'clock position to install the minute hand. The minute hand is also not that difficult. Just install it at the 12 o'clock position like the hour hand. Now with the second hand. This is probably the hardest one to do. It will test your patience and have you coming up with new curse words. The peg on the second hand is only 0.17 millimeters thick, and trying to fit it into the hole with a steady hand is difficult. If you're lucky, you can get it on the first try. Don't try to force it on if it's not in the hole or you can damage it. What I usually do is use the putty to hold the second hand and hover over the hole slowly until I could feel it catch, and then I push it down with the tool. It will really test your patience, but do know that it's possible, and after a few builds, it'll get easier. I gotta be honest, I didn't get it on the first shot for this build. I cut to it so you don't have to see me fumble around. It took me about 10 tries. With the hand installed, make sure they're all level and not clashing into each other as they rotate around the dial. Finally, we can install it into the case. I use a blower to get any dust or particles out. Install the stem and crown. Next, install the gasket. Make sure it's lubed. Finally, close it up with the case back. I use a rubber ball tool to do the job. Now we can test out the functions of the watch. Make sure the hands turn in the setting position and the second hand moves around, and finally set the correct time. So here is the completed watch in various straps and bracelets. Here it is on a white FKM racing strap. Here it is on a blue and red FKM strap. Here it is on a stainless steel mesh strap. And finally, here it is on a stainless steel bracelet. Using the Seiko VH31 quartz movement and a custom movement holder allows you to create an accurate timepiece with the vast variety of parts made for the NH series of mechanical movements. It combines the smooth, sweeping hands of a mechanical watch with the precision and low maintenance of a quartz. Not worrying about battery changes for a couple years make quartz a great grab and go watch. Anyways, I hope this video gives you some ideas on your next build. Have a nice day, and you'll hear from me in the next video.